Captain America Civil War. I've done another video where I'm expressing my thoughts on Civil War, so yeah, go ahead and check that one out for my full breakdown of it. But yeah, for this video, it's definitely continues the whole storyline that was set in motion in Winter Soldier of Bucky being the central figure of this movie. And one of the inciting incidents is him killing Tony Stark's parents and then stealing the super soldier serum for Hydra for their base in Siberia. And definitely a lot of like Easter eggs kind of gets brought up back at the very end of the movie with the character of Helmut Zemo playing that footage for Tony, Steve, and Bucky. And it gets a whole reveal because his whole motivation is to fracture the Avengers because of what happened in Sokovia, where Zemo's family was killed in that battle. And he's trying to get revenge because he's just a normal guy. He can't go against the Avengers, but if you got them to kill each other, maybe that would work. So he decides to have the whole plan in motion. And then meanwhile, you have the Avengers needing to be put in check because the whole opening action scene of the new Avengers team going against Crossbones in Lagos, and Brock Rumlow, who turns out to be Crossbones, tries to have like a suicide bomb, but then Wanda contains the power, tries to throw him up, and then blows up the building with all the Wakandan refugees, and that kind of sets things in motion for the Sokovia Accords. So obviously the Avengers are divided over that, and Tony and his team want the Avengers to be put in check, but then Steve wants to have the Avengers kind of make their own choices. Then we have the Civil War, as it says in the movie. We also get introduced to a bunch of new characters. We get introduced to Black Panther and his father T'Chaka, and then after T'Chaka gets killed, Black Panther becomes the new King of Wakanda and the new Black Panther, and then he'll get into his movie later on. We get introduced to Ayo, Adore Milaje, kind of like the all-female warrior for Wakanda. We get introduced to Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman, which will get reintroduced again in Black Panther, and then we get introduced to Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland, and then Aunt May, played by Marissa Tomei, and then we're kind of establishing this kind of new Avengers team since Thor and Hulk are kind of out of the picture. Now we have to introduce like new heroes into the MCU in order to kind of like fill the roster a little bit. It's kind of cool seeing these new characters introduced, especially as they get recruited, and then kind of seeing how they, spin off. Obviously, they have the big battle at the airport, which is epic and amazing, and then, kind of like the plot twist within that. Black Widow ends up betraying Tony and kind of subdues Black Panther to let Steve and Bucky go free. War Machine tries to go after them, and then Falcon tries to stop War Machine, but then Vision tries to shoot down Falcon, but then, accidentally hits War Machine, so then his suit's disabled, he falls down to the ground, gets paralyzed, and then, all the other characters kind of like at a stalemate. They either just don't want to help Tony anymore, or they've just been kind of subdued in a way. We get to the big ending where we have the big fight between Steve, Iron Man, and Bucky, where it kind of like ends with Bucky getting his arm blown off, and then Cap using the shield to disable Iron Man's suit, and then them kind of like going off and leaving Iron Man hanging. Cap's team gets captured and taken to the raft, but then at the very end, Steve breaks them out, and they're kind of on the run, and then Tony's really just like left hanging, but then he gets the cell phone in the mail. Steve has a voiceover. It's like, if you ever need me, I'll be there. So even though the Avengers are fractured, Captain America still wants to have, reconciliation with Tony because, there might be a big world-ending threat later on, so they might have to reassemble in order to defeat it. So yeah, overall, this is like an amazing movie. Action-packed, funny, dramatic, and it's definitely a good like midpoint of the entire MCU. Like everything's kind of flipped on its head. Tony is like wanting to be put in check, where at first he was like wanting to just do everything for himself and be selfish. And Steve, who was always like pro-government, pro-authority and everything like that, is now going on his own, going on the run. So definitely a big midpoint for the MCU, and yeah, just definitely kind of leaves the Avengers team in shambles, and then that's kind of like a great opportunity for Thanos to come in and start taking over. So yeah, overall, awesome movie. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention the mid-credit scene of Bucky being taken to Wakanda and then putting into cryo sleep, and then starting their whole rehabilitation process to go from Winter Soldier to Bucky, and then, having Cap have a whole trusting relationship with T'Challa, and then kind of set up their relationship for Infinity War and later on.